All right, we are back for another episode. This is the Sunday Puncher podcast, and we've got a lot of things to talk about, a ton of news that we have this week. Fights getting announced, fights being prematurely announced. Who knows what's happening with Marcos Maidana? Andre Ward had his Booker T moment, and he said something along the lines of he's coming for Sergey Kovalev. Chris Algieri is going to be back. We've got Tony Thompson was in action this weekend, Jermell Charlo, and we've got a big week of boxing to look forward to. If you're looking for specific fight previews and only fight previews, I did a previous episode. If you subscribe, it's probably in your feed or in your queue. And if not, you can go to the website and look at the fight preview episode, which just focuses on in-depth previews of the upcoming week's fights. And we'll finish off today talking about Reddit's pound-for-pound list. Yep, the Reddit voted pound-for-pound list. But first, the biggest welterweight fight that could be announced that doesn't involve Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman versus Shawn Porter. Now, we were probably going to get this in mid-December, and it's been delayed to sometime in January. But let me tell you this. This is perfect. It's absolutely perfect because, you know what? That fight that was going to end up being on Showtime between Thurman and Porter wasn't going to do much, up more than 1.2 million viewers. What they've done is they've taken that fight, they've taken it and put it in January where it doesn't have to compete with college football on a Saturday night. And instead, they're going to do it on Fox prime time, possibly having an NFL game as a lead-in, NFL playoff lead-in, to maybe have that fight break PBC's record so far of ratings and have it get the biggest rating PBC fights have gotten thus far. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I mean, let's be realistic, guys. How many people that sign up for Showtime because of their boxing content still have Showtime? I mean, people cut Showtime off when PBC moved all their fighters off the network. They just haven't been putting on compelling or interesting fights all year long, and for the boxing fan, you know, unless you're in Showtime for like Homeland or something, which you might be still, you know, they really haven't provided, or the Affair, they haven't really provided boxing content that was worth the amount of money that you had to pay on a per monthly basis. So yeah, absolutely, that's the right move. Get that fight, and that's one of those fights, come on, you know it's going to be a barn burner. Like, every once in a while, you know, you see the fight on paper, it looks perfect, it turns out to be a dud. I just don't see that the case. Both these guys know what's at stake. They know they know the fight got moved to give them a bigger viewing audience. And you say 1 point something on Showtime? Yeah, I don't even know if they could pull that. I really don't, only because they're not the most known commodities, you know? But I think this is like the fantastic fight for Fox primetime.
Yeah, it's going to be their debut on Fox in primetime, and that's a really good point that the Showtime subscribers just might not be there for this fight to do a good rating. And you know what? This is going to be one of those fights where this guy is going to get catapulted to the top of the welterweight division. I think Porter and Thurman have both shown that they've been good enough lately that a win over the other one puts them in the elite group of welterweights, because I think both have an argument that could be made against them being in the top tier.
It's the perfect timing for this fight, I think, too, is like what you're getting at for both their respective careers. You know, Porter's had enough time to put his loss in the rearview mirror. Thurman's had enough time to continue just looking like Keith Thurman and, you know, being the best Keith Thurman that he can be. And that was a Chris Algieri.
I was about to say, who's been advising you?
I got Chris Algieri's standing behind me.
Oh, okay.
So, no, but Thurman's, you know, done well. He hasn't been in the most super competitive fights. And then when he stepped up against Guerrero, he, you know, didn't knock Guerrero out, unfortunately.
He did wipe the floor with them.
He absolutely did, but he also wiped the floor with his face. So, you know, I think it's a great fight. It's a 50-50 fight. It's a fight that boxing fans are going to tell their non-boxing fan friends, like, hey, after you finish watching football, like, keep Fox on. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's one of those kind of fights that you're going to tell people, hey, like, this is going to, trust me, fireworks. It's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, and the fact that Thurman took some damage against Guerrero just adds
Makes it
confidence to like
exact.
this is gonna be a war. And I think both of these guys, they know they need this desperately. This is their future. Like the winner here becomes also not only just one of the elite welterweights, but they become a draw that they have not been thus far in their careers. And there's a vacancy at welterweight atop the division to see who's going to take over. Pacquiao's got one fight left. Pacquiao doesn't, suppose Pacquiao's a little competitive with Crawford, or maybe a lot competitive with Crawford. I don't think that might not elevate Crawford to where he needs to be the top draw in boxing, which Arum hopes is going to be the case if he does make that fight. That leaves an opening for Thurman and Porter to take the reins.
Certainly. Well, the tough thing about being a welterweight and with top rank is you're limited to a very select group of fighters that you're going to fight. Whereas at least it feels as though, Al Heyman has a lot more options for fighter. PBC has a lot more options if you're in the welterweight division. And you're absolutely right. Whoever wins this Thurman Porter, that's the guy that every other welterweight is going to start calling out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're not going to hear, oh, I'd fight Thurman or Porter. No, you're not going to, or Broner, you're not going to hear any of that. Whoever wins that fight, every welterweight is going to start calling out. So it's instantly going to catapult them into a place where they're being called out by the entire division.
You mean Khan's actually going to want to fight Thurman at long last?
If that's how the fight goes down, hey.
I have a conspiracy theory here, and that's that this fight is the qualifier or the eliminator for Earl Spence. Because I think that they see in Earl Spence the future.
Right. So let's build these guys up to be the next big thing, and then have Errol Spence knock their block off.
Which can happen. Let's stay on the welterweight division. Marcos Maidana. Is he retiring? Is he not retiring? Is he getting in shape?
Yep.
I don't know. So it seems like he's pretty set on retiring, even though there's conflicting reports out there. I think the moment you entertain the conversation of retirement and what is there left for me to do, you're out the door. I mean, we heard this with Carl Frampton. She was in between for a while what he wanted to do. And he ultimately chose retirement. And it's good because he was in between, and you don't want to be in between and try to fight still while you're in between. Having a fight where, this fight will tell me what I need to know as far as the future of my boxing career.
Get your head on straight, Angelo.
I know I almost said NFL.
Get the red zone off.
Yes, I do watch the Red Zone channel while we do the podcast.
Yeah, well, how much do you want other fights to dictate your career and your career decisions? And obviously, as a boxer, to a degree, you have to do that, right? You have to, whoever wins is going to be more lucrative, more entertaining, more exciting, more interesting fight for you. I think Maidana is obviously in a place where he was compensated very well for two fights with Floyd. You
can tell by looking at the pictures of him.
Yep. He's got more than enough money to live a very comfortable life in Argentina and live out the rest of his days happy. I'm sure that's very hard to compete with, getting punched in the face. You know what I mean? Like, what do I want to? Which would I rather do? But he just might still have some fight left in him, in some, like, I want to go out there and prove a point left in him. So,
do you think there are welterweights out there, amongst the top ones at least, that Maidana could step in and beat? Like, if we look at the top 10, who's he beating? Is he beating Porter? Yeah, you're
Maybe.
not confident. You're not confident.
Close fight. Yeah.
What about Thurman? I don't think so. Maidana didn't
Probably
want to
not.
fight him when he
Yeah,
was
probably not.
active.
Right.
Let's see. Is he beating Kell Brook? I don't think so.
Why
Brook would
not?
jab him to death.
He could probably I saw some footage of Mike Alvarado sparring. I mean shadow boxing. Might be able to slip past.
Uh,
That's not fun.
no, it
That
is.
that
It
didn't
is.
feel good.
Well, yeah, you should feel bad about yourself. So we'll move on. Andre Ward has signed a multi-fight deal with HBO. And obviously, the news here is that this is pretty much HBO's commitment to Ward that he's going to get a Kovalev fight. Now, the question is,
Is that what you want?
no, it's obviously what Andre Ward. If anybody out there can handle Kovalev, it's not Golovkin. It's
Right.
not Adonis Stevenson. You can't I mean, you can say like Stevenson could stand up to him and he might be able to knock him out, sure. But we're relying on a lot of like, can this go right and this go right and is it going to fall this way? But with Ward, it's like that's way more than just yeah, he might beat him. It's like, yeah, Ward can easily shut Kovalev out. If somebody told you, oh yeah, Andre Ward fought Kovalev and it was a 12-round shutout, you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If somebody
Yeah.
told you Stevenson scored a shutout over Kovalev, you'd be like, no, he didn't.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
Who was judging the fight?
Right. So I guess the question is really going to come down to how competent is Andre Ward at the weight? Because you got to take weight into consideration. Kovalev is not a small light heavyweight by any stretch, and Ward isn't going to be a big one. And just the way in which Kovalev manhandled Hopkins and just like completely, dominated Hopkins.
Hopkins, the guy who says he wanted to go to 154 to fight Mayweather.
Right. But another, yeah, he was looking for a check. But if he saw openings in Kovalev's game, he sure would have exploited them. You know what I mean? Hopkins didn't want that fight to go down that way.
I think one of the things that people don't give Kovalev credit for is that he's a pretty good athlete. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have been able to, or Hopkins would have been able to figure something out with him, and he didn't because Hopkins didn't have the speed, he didn't have the reflexes. I mean, he had some reflexes, but not enough to win.
Age-related issues too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm pointing out is that at that age, Kovalev was just a much better athlete than Hopkins, and I think even if Kovalev was a little more primitive of a fighter, which he's not, I think he still would have won that fight.
I'd actually made a comment on Reddit in reference to this fight. Let's just say that Ward and Kovalev don't fight each other for a little while for whatever reason. But, Kovalev's best win still to date is Hopkins. And if Kovalev doesn't get in there and test himself with anybody else, a lot of what Kovalev's, quote unquote legacy or just, our ability to evaluate him will kind of rely on what does Hopkins go on to do after this, if anything. You know what I mean? Like if Hopkins goes in like, Chad Dawson and gets knocked out in one round, to Adonis Stevenson or something, we might like start thinking, well, how much stock do we put into his win over Hopkins? Because a lot of people put a lot of stock into that win because, Hopkins is the master craftsman boxer. He's, masterclass. He's going to negate your best trait and implement his. You know what I mean? So everybody puts a ton of stock into that win for Kovalev, which I think is okay to do for now. But I really would like to see what does Hopkins go on to do from here? And I don't know if we're ever going to see that because of his age. He may have just felt his age in that fight and said, "I'm done."
Let me ask you a question because that actually brings up a pretty good point for me, and that is that what did Hopkins do to convince everybody that he was like this great win for Kovalev? What had he done? Beirut Shumanov, Karol Murat, that was a close fight. The Shumanov fight, fine, but have you seen Shumanov fight?
Yes,
he's not that good.
Yeah,
he's not that good. He's slow.
He did good against Flores.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I know. And I think that was even at cruiserweight too.
It was. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Shumanov had no trainer.
in the
He
in the
sat there
Hopkins
in the
fight.
corner by himself and just stared into space. He was like, "Oh,
He
okay."
put a mirror up and he talked to himself.
Yeah, he's like, "Beirut, you need
Listen
to
up.
go to the body. A little more activity." No, come on. So
Yeah, I
before
know.
that, what did Hopkins do? So
No,
Shumanov, Murat, Tavares Cloud. You know when the
Cloud.
last time Hopkins fought a real fighter? Like a real guy who's you can say, okay, that's a championship level fighter. It was Chad
2005.
Dawson.
No.
And what did he do with Chad Dawson?
Oh,
He got beat by activity. So I
right.
love Hopkins. He's one of my favorites, okay? But I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that Hopkins was a worthwhile win for Kovalev and that we should make Kovalev the, whatever number pound per pound you want to make him because
And rely on that win because that's what happens is people they point to that singular opposition as proof in the pudding.
exactly. But remember, Hopkins easily outpointed Hopkins. Did I just say Hopkins easily outpointed Hopkins?
You did.
I
And
mean,
he probably would.
I mean, Dawson easily outpointed Hopkins. And, Hopkins did a little, I don't know, that his shoulder injury, he had a Manny Pacquiao type of shoulder injury during that Hopkins fight the first time around.
The first time around, yeah. Well, the first time around he got tackled. I mean, it was a little ridiculous.
I do think they should still be apologizing for anybody who ordered that fight. I hope you guys got refunded. So anyway, back to Andre Ward. I don't really think we can bring this conversation back to Andre Ward, so let's just move on to the next thing and talk about
good.
Guillermo Rigondeaux.
Yes. Former managers are reptiles.
Yeah. So I called them snakes in the preview podcast because I was too lazy to bring up the link. I was just going by memory. But here's the point I made. I go on a little rant about this in the other podcast. This is the only non-fight topic I talked about. But basically, Rigondeaux has nobody to blame but himself and his fans. I think Rigondeaux fans, his apologists, are some of the most difficult and annoying fans out there because you just don't see the truth about it. And this Rigondeaux's at fault here. He's to blame. Why are you turning down offers from promoters that were actually pretty good? And then you're acting like, oh, it's the managers and all these people out here who are derailing my career. No, you just didn't want to fight and you're unwilling to compromise on anything. I respect that. But so what?
But you have to take accountability if that's what you're going to choose to do. If that's the route you're going to choose to take.
Exactly.
Right. You gotta hold your head up high and say, I was the one who decided to reject so-and-so's offer.
Yep, and he's getting older. Nobody knows how old Rigondeaux is, but he's getting older.
Nobody knows. There's 2 birth certificates in this world we don't have. Just kidding.
Rigondeaux's and whose?
Well, Trump, Obama, the whole birth certificate thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, Obama's almost out of office. Is there any reason for anybody to be picking on him right now? He's like that senior in high school who does not care anymore. It's like May 17th. They're like, I got 2 weeks left.
So checked out, yeah. But the thing is, I don't know. Lara's fans are pretty tough to deal with because they don't like to acknowledge that like he's hittable or like not the greatest fighter. Whereas Rigondeaux, I think, is one of the, an extremely great fighter because of how competent he is with that, flowing from offense to defense. Whereas with Lara, I don't see that. I rate Rigondeaux significantly higher. But as far as, his managerial stuff, it's just like, I just want to see him fight. That's really all I care about.
I completely agree with that.
I just want to see him fight, Even if it's another Japanese vampire.
Hey, that Japanese vampire dropped him twice.
He did. So it makes it's like Khan. It's what could make a fight fun. His ability to be amazing at defense is a necessity. You know what I mean? It's not just fun. Or a slick style. It's a necessity because he goes down, and a lot of times it goes down off of balance issues though. He's not always necessarily hurt, but he definitely got rocked in that fight. He definitely got rocked in that fight.
Can I do an impersonation of a crazy casual boxing fan?
Let's hear it.
All right, so I was watching the PBC card on Friday night, and Lydell Rhodes is 5'4", and he fights at 140. So I was thinking, Roman Gonzalez is 5'4". What are the odds that he could fight Manny Pacquiao, who's a small welterweight? They could do like 141, 142. Do you think Roman Gonzalez could make weight? He totally could.
It's just amazing. It's just the myriad of factors that are, people refuse to take into consideration when thinking about Roman Gonzalez are just like.
I mean, I think he'd beat Pacquiao.
Gonzalez?
Yeah.
What way? Like, you mean pound for pound wise?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but sometimes I have conversations like this where people explain to me that Pacquiao will beat Golovkin in his prime, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That's just not that's just not possible.
It's just not how things work. It's just like you're talking about Gonzalez, who is so old, not growing anymore, and it's just
Yeah, it's like this dude is 28.
Yeah,
Gonzalez flyweight.
At flyweight, right? When Manny was at flyweight, like when he had like rocks in his pockets,
he was
or
like
something.
17 years old.
Yeah, exactly. He was 17 years old.
Like overnight, could he jump up to 140?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, if somebody told you that he was willing to do that, it's not like you wouldn't order that fight in the casual fan's defense, right?
No, you don't. I'd want to watch it. Yeah. I don't know. If they can meet somewhere in the middle. I think we need a time machine, though.
All right, enough of that. So, speaking of Pacquiao, though, this guy says he's getting a Mayweather shot, or they're in some sort of negotiation for Mayweather.
How legitimate was that? Did you read that?
Well, no, I saw the headline.
I saw the headline.
Do you think I clicked that?
I didn't click on it either. I didn't click on it either. I just saw the headline. I was just wondering. I mean, there's no way. I honestly hope he fights Berto. I hope Berto gets to like be the guy.
Oh man,
who retires both Mayweather and Pacquiao. I think it's the most logical and just straightforward approach to this whole thing.
No, I think we need to start a campaign for this.
Let's end this with Berto.
That's the going out, I'm retiring now fight. And then Klitschko, after he beats Tyson Fury, can fight Berto.
Exactly. And then Carl Froch could unretire, fight Berto. And then Marcos Maidana could fight Berto.
So here's the thing, though, about this. It says Pacquiao confirms. Okay. But here's what he said. I don't know yet who's my opponent next, but we're still negotiating right now about the rematch with Floyd Mayweather, so hoping for that. So the grammar and the grammar errors here really screwed me up trying to say that. So let me do it again. I don't know yet who's my opponent next, but we're still negotiating right now about the rematch with Floyd Mayweather, so hoping for that. Does he mean like I'm hoping for that, or I'm hoping for that?
So I think it's hoping for that, like not so hoping for that. Like, yeah, I think there should be a comma in there. It's not happening.
No, it's not. I think
it's not happening.
I think Mayweather's enjoying retirement, and why come back and fight Pacquiao?
I see too many things on Twitter of like martini glasses coming from Floyd Mayweather, who doesn't drink, and like palm trees and stuff. Like he's not coming back anytime soon, I don't think. And
Mayweather's Twitter account just said Floyd Mayweather is retired. End of discussion.
Yeah, it's over. He ended his career the way that Marquez should have ended his career coming off of Pacquiao 4.
Can you imagine that if Marquez would have retired and then we had two people who got, great wins over Manny Pacquiao and then just took their ball and left?
Yeah, exactly.
Poor Pacquiao. And you know what? He's so trusting and he's such a good guy that he's going to get taken advantage of by Barham because he's about to get a fight with Terrence Crawford.
No, Conce is too. I'm starting to worry that Conce is too smart for it and is seeing right through it, and it's just like, no way is he getting put in with Crawford. No way.
Well, then what do they do?
That's troubling.
Is this where Berto comes in?
This is where Berto. Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is where Berto comes in.
Maybe they want an easy fight for Pacquiao and not a long one either, and they give him Jose Zepeda, who can't seem to get past one round in his fights.
Oh.
And not because he's no good or anything. It's just extracurricular things. All right, Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg. This is not announced and it's not official. And do not make the mistake of thinking that this fight is made.
I already booked my plane ticket to Belfast.
Idiot. Because it's not even in Belfast.
I'm to London. Yeah,
that's not in London either. It's in Manchester.
Manchester, right.
February 27th in Manchester, Frampton versus Quigg. Manchester is a location because, one, that's where Quigg is from, and two, it's a convenient little ride over from Belfast. This is one of the best fights you can make in all of boxing. Two top-tier super bantamweights. Actual... it's not just a professional fight where it's like, okay, we're fighting because we're both good. It's like we're fighting because we don't like each other.
Yeah, there's some bad blood there. There really is.
And Frampton's going to be the favorite, but look, Quigg is dangerous, and he just might pull this off. Frampton,
forget about it. You guys have just all fooled yourselves into thinking that Quigg is dangerous. I have no idea why. Because of the Kiko Martinez fight? Like, give me a break. Kiko Martinez?
Quigg's a better adjuster than Frampton. Frampton has just basically fights the same way, and it works. Quigg can adjust in fights. We've never had to see Frampton really adjust because, plan A always works. But Quigg can adjust. He's a smart fighter. He has power. And what Frampton showed against Alejandro Gonzalez, I think was his name, when he got dropped twice, that was a little telling that he's a little vulnerable. He, when he didn't have his hometown crowd behind him, he looked rattled in the first round, and he's going to be fighting away from home against, a crazy crowd in Manchester supporting their hometown guy. And Quigg's not a bad fighter. He's definitely better than Alejandro. Was it Gonzalez? I'll look that up. I don't want to keep calling the wrong guy.
Yeah, I think Alejandro Gonzalez might have been.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I was thinking of Avalos was the fight before that. Yeah, Frampton was a little shooken up. He was was his American debut, or at least his, American television debut. There was a lot riding on it. He got dropped, twice. There was a lot to recover from. But in my opinion, he did a great job, And I don't know. I just irrationally don't like Quigg. So,
no, this is obviously Frampton's going to be the favorite here, and smart money.
Do they have odds in it?
There are odds. They're not official odds yet, but there are odds that a lot of sites have put up because this is just a fight that's been talked about for a while. And obviously Frampton is the favorite, but it's a slim one. Andre Ward is a slimmer favorite than Frampton is against Kovalev. But still,
it's a slim. Yeah, the odds aren't.
This is a great fight, and obviously, why it makes sense that they're actually making this fight is because this fight in February, they could air this on one of our major networks here, like NBC, in the daytime.
Right.
I think this is a great fight. I really hope that they make it. And this, you want to make Frampton a star here? Have him beat Quigg. Because, Quigg does bring an exciting style to the table. It's not like Quigg is some bum. It's not like Quigg has a boring style where he's just looking to outpoint Frampton. No, he's going to come in and try to take it to Frampton.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're both going to go out there and try to really take it to each other, honestly. Like, neither of them are going to want to be the one that doesn't look good in this fight. This is such a big fight. It's such a fight that's been long in the making, too. You know what I mean? This is a fight that folks have been talking about for years.
I hope we can get Lee Selby on the undercard.
It would. I'm very excited for this fight. I'll be pulling for Frampton, and I think he's got every reason to win, unless he lets his nerves get to him, because he's going to be in real hostile territory.
Yep. And Quigg's not bad. He's improved pretty dramatically over the past few years. He used to be a guy that just would let his opponents set the tone for how things are going to go, and then he would fight inside of that style. And he's been able to establish his own pace, his own way of fighting in the past year or so. All right, another British fighter. So Liam Smith, he just won a WBO super welterweight title. He's probably going to fight Shane Mosley, and there was a lot of controversy over this because Mosley rejected the fight because Mosley wanted a rematch clause. I hope Liam Smith...
Did Mosley pull out of the fight?
He did.
Or is it still on?
He did, but Liam Smith changed his... Basically, Liam Smith agreed to whatever Mosley was saying was the problem.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
So likely...
So this fight's on?
It's likely going to be on, and I think Liam Smith is likely going to beat Mosley.
He should. I mean, Mosley has not looked very good in his last outing.
Well, he looked excellent against Ricardo Mayorga. He did. He looked absolutely powerful, quick. But also, he was fighting a guy who had a cigarette in his mouth, so there's
trying to think. Who was his fight prior to that?
Anthony Mundine. And Mosley was stopped on his stool.
Right.
Gabe Rosado versus Joshua Clottey has been added to the December 19th Bryant Jennings versus Luis Ortiz undercard.
Way to go, HBO.
It's a great match between two irrelevant 154-pound fighters. But you know what? I bet you the winner gets a shot at either Canelo or Cotto.
Well, I think each of them will get the respective. The winner goes to the winners. You know what I mean? Loser goes to the loser.
So this is like a little tournament.
It's an informal keep Golovkin out tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Chris Algieri is going to fight Eric Bonet on the Jacobs versus Quillen undercard. Good fight. Really good fight.
Could be a really fun fight. I love Chris's new, come forward style. I think having more time with John David Jackson now will have allowed him to really put the finishing touches on that style. Because I actually watched a couple highlights of his kickboxing because Algieri came over as a kickboxer kind of late in his career, and he had I don't know anything about kickboxing, but he did have a very come forward aggressive style in kickboxing. So
yeah, that's probably his nature.
Yeah, although we saw him in in stardom, beating Ruslan Provodnikov in this more defensive-minded kind of style. He started off his career in kickboxing with that come-forward style, and that's kind of just what he's gone back to, so which is why it seems so natural to him in the Khan fight. So Eric Bonet had a couple great rounds against Porter last minute, right? He got pulled in last minute for that fight. Who knows? It could end up being a barn burner, or it could end up maybe Algieri's got some knockout power hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think Bonet's success against Porter was a lot of Porter just being stupid in that fight and
underestimating.
Yeah. He just came in and was like, I'm going to blitz this guy and knock him out. And Bonet is much better than people gave him credit for because obviously nobody had ever heard of him. But he was better than people gave him credit for, and he had some success. I think for Algieri, he's just a smart fighter. He's always adapted his style to what he sees in front of him.
Right.
Specifically when he fought Provodnikov, where he adjusted to being somebody who can counter and box and move effectively around the ring. And we do know that that's how you beat Provodnikov.
Is wings some kind of football term?
No, I messed up. Gonzalez and Estrada, who we talked about earlier, Juan Francisco Estrada, Roman Gonzalez, they both believe that they deserve $1 million apiece to fight each other in a rematch that we've already seen where Gonzalez already won.
They're demanding $10,000 per pound.
And still, Al Heyman pays undercard fighters more.
And they haven't got that fight signed, right?
Right.
He said no network's jumping at paying them $1 million. K2, get on that.
No, nobody's paying these guys $1 million to fight. Nobody's gonna watch it. You couldn't get 1 million people to watch this fight.
That's true.
If we said, all right, promoter, we're gonna pay our Reddit Boxing, we will pay the fighters. You just have to do all the promotion, all the sanctioning, whatever there needs to be, okay? We are going to pay their purse. We couldn't come up with $1 million because, like, we just couldn't. And we couldn't even come up with 50,000 probably.
It's going to be like, hey, do you guys want to see Roman Gonzalez not knock someone out? Like, you know, people tune in to see Roman Gonzalez knock someone out. He's already successfully not knocked Juan Francisco Estrada out. So, I mean, like, the whole, like, you're coming to see Gonzalez smash through someone, that narrative's off the table, you know? So it becomes maybe not the most appealing fight from a promotional standpoint. You know, when you got somebody in front of Gonzalez who he's going to pick apart and, you know, stop in an entertaining fashion, that becomes a much more, you know, attractive fight from a promotional standpoint.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump on to the recaps. So, Jason, why don't you go through the Thompson versus Malik Scott, the Tony Thompson versus Malik Scott. Thompson's your guy.
Yeah, Thompson's my guy, my American heavyweight. Just trying to, I want to get his age right here, because that ended up being rather important in this fight. So
he's 100.
Let's see, 135. Okay, 44 years old. So yeah, he looked every bit a 44-year-old, 240-pound man in a boxing ring. Like, he really didn't do much. He did manage to knock Scott down in the 9th, but he just couldn't muster the energy or the ability to, like, pursue that any further. He just couldn't follow up on it. He got Scott down. Scott was wobbled, definitely hurt a little bit. He had plenty of time to follow up, but he just couldn't pull the trigger, couldn't get to him fast enough. And if you want to say anything, you say, hey, Scott fought a smart fight, kept up his lateral movement. He did a lot of really nice things in there. He looked surprisingly agile. He was really moving around Thompson. So that, again, speaks to Thompson kind of being out of shape and, you know, looking old.
As if Thompson's ever been in shape.
Right. It made Scott look fast and agile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like when you see Rios versus Alvarado 3. It's like, we all know that Rios isn't some lightning fast, like, quick on his feet fighter, but he sure looked like one against Alvarado. Same thing with this fight. Like, Scott may be a little more quick on his feet than Rios ever was. So maybe not the best analogy, but this fight made Scott look good.
Right, but the thing is, we know what Scott is already. He's had 2 fights at almost world level, and he got beat up pretty bad both times. So it's like, I really wanted Thompson to win this fight because I think it was a more interesting narrative going forward if Thompson were to have won, you know, with a Wilder fight potentially happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Versus Malik Scott winning. It's like, well, we know he loses to Wilder because he's already lost to Wilder. So who else is he going to fight? Was he going to fight Dominic Breazeale?
Well, Wilder was actually on the commenting team, the commenter team, the majority of the broadcast, and they said it at least half a dozen times. You know, the winner of this fight is gonna, you know, probably, you know, looking at you again, you know, and it's just like, no. You know, we don't speak the highest praises for Wilder, but
you guys,
you're right. A Thompson fight would have been a better narrative than Malik Scott too. Yeah. Like,
all right, let's jump on to the other card, which is Jermell Charlo versus Joaquim Alcine. So Charlo looked great, but I mean, it's not like it was difficult to look great against Joaquim Alcine. Alcine was, just was a step behind Charlo, and Charlo used his power, his accuracy. Charlo actually was very methodical in the fight. He wasn't willing to throw punches if he wasn't certain that they were going to land. So Charlo got a nice stoppage over Alcine. Beautiful punches that he landed to really hurt Alcine. And on the undercard, Tony Harrison. So this guy looked like he was going to be a really good prospect. Maybe about, a year ago?
Yeah, he was one of the last guys out of the Kronk gym, right?
a lot of charisma. You could definitely
Yeah.
see him being somebody that could fight in main events on whatever network had him. This guy lost to Willie Nelson, and I don't know. He came out and he won, and he was pretty impressive. But whatever that special something is that he used to have, it's gone.
It's called confidence, man.
His confidence is completely gone.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I saw. He lost the last few rounds, in my opinion. He was hurt. Now, McCullough was throwing punches to get lucky, and he finally did get lucky. But the fact that there were such telegraphed punches coming from so far away, I just didn't like what I saw from Harrison. And I don't really foresee him being a force until he can get unleashed again. And it's like Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner has to fight a certain way. And that way, most people hate it. And they hate him. But that way works for Broner.
We'll have to see, man. He's still too young in his career. You know what I mean? He's still young enough in his career that he could make whatever adjustments he needs to make and regain that confidence. He was coming off a knockout loss, right? Or wasn't it a stoppage loss?
Harrison, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was coming off his first loss, stoppage at that. You know what I mean? So give him 4 or 5 fights to regain his confidence a bit. The kid he fought that was coming off a 2-bout losing streak to who was it? He had lost to Ishe Smith and who else? I don't know. Needless to say, it was a relatively safe fight for him. He should, you know what I mean? He should have won the fight, and he did. So keep on chugging along.
Let's preview next week's action. So let's start with no, we'll save the best for last. Let's start with Provodnikov versus Jesus Rodriguez. I think that
I think I said this last time, but who? Who's Provodnikov fighting?
Exactly. He's fighting this guy. I mean, this dude's fighting the most basic of journeymen out there.
Is this another fight in Russia?
No, it's in Monte Carlo.
Oh, look at you.
So.
Oh no, it's Monaco that you pronounce wrong. I thought you.
No, I don't say it like that. So I mean, what are we gonna say about this fight? That Provodnikov's gonna decapitate this young guy. That he's gonna get outboxed here. That this Mexican warrior is gonna outbang Provodnikov. Pick any narrative you want with this.
Pick anyone and pull it out of the hat come fight night. It can happen.
Yeah, and Provodnikov could be done. Who knows? But
Provodnikov took so much punishment from one of the harder punchers at 140, in Lucas Matisse. He took a ton of punishment. And as you saw, Matisse also took a ton of punishment in that fight and didn't look so good. It'd be pretty interesting to see how their respective careers go post-fighting each other.
Yeah, so, I mean, this fight, it'd be nice to see Provodnikov win. And guess what? You can watch it. Showtime's picked it up. They're going to show it in the daytime.
No way. Provodnikov's going to be on Showtime.
Yep.
Look at that. Good for him. Good for Showtime.
Yeah.
It's the end of the year. That boxing budget, they still got a ton of money in the boxing
Yeah, they're just like, hey, how much is that Provodnikov going to...
fight? Yeah.
It's like 6,000.
No.
They're like 7,000. Throw 7,000 down.
We'll pay triple because whatever we don't spend this year, we get taken away next year. So...
All right. Well, you know what they should have done is they should have picked up a double feature. The Provodnikov-Rodriguez fight and then the Fielding versus Smith. Rocky Fielding versus Callum Smith. That's also going to happen Saturday afternoon. And look, Fielding, he had a good win against Brian Vera. And there's a lot of, evidence and things you can point to say, oh, Fielding's a really good super middleweight. And he could be Callum Smith. Except for the whole, Fielding was unknown. Callum Smith was legitimately one of the top super middleweight prospects in the world and one of the best prospects overall in all of boxing. And yeah, Smith has struggled a little bit lately, but guess what? The guys he's fighting have also given real fights to title holders. So it's not like he's been fighting the Brian Veras who are coming off of 3 straight losses. He's fighting real guys and beating them.
Yeah, so needless to say, you got you're still holding Callum Smith in high regard, even, given the fact that he's had to do a distance fight here or there.
He's done several, and that leaves me more confident that this guy has 12 rounds of experience against real good competition versus Rocky Fielding, who thinks he can blitz through everybody. I'm sorry, but that's not gonna happen. Let's see. In Russia, this is on Tuesday, 7 a.m. for me, 10 o'clock for you. Cesar Rene Cuenca returns. I had to pause for dramatic effect. And guess what? He's going for it. Mayweather's record. Standing in his way is Edward Troyanovsky. What's so funny?
Standing in his way.
Literally, he's standing in his way. Troyanovsky.
He will be.
He will move, though. He will move. He will not stand there and hang from a chain like a king. This could be a good fight. I think both guys are equally matched. Cuenca's one of the top 10.
Are you telling me that Cuenca may not break the record? I need Cuenca to break the record.
I took out a bet that Cuenca would go to 60-0. It's paying plus 2,200.
That's good. All right.
I put $1,000 on that.
So you got faith. All right.
Well, I also have a bet at plus 10,000 that Cuenca breaks Julio Cesar Chavez's 87-0 record. Is it 87-0?
Yeah. Before the split decision.
Before he lost to Pernell Whitaker, but he should have. Before he should have lost to Pernell Whitaker.
Right. Does Cuenca fight at that? How many times a year does Cuenca fight?
A dozen.
Okay. All right. How old is he?
Cuenca, he's like old. He's pretty old. That's a good question. Let me look him up. I think he's pretty old. I think he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
Couldn't look it up. He's like 25. No, Cuenca's 34 years old.
Okay.
So
34 years old.
And with his style, he can go till he's about 44.
He fought once in 2014. He fought twice in 2015.
Right.
Yeah, so he might need to pick up the pace a little bit if he wants to go after that big target on the back of Julio Cesar Chavez.
All right, but
anyways.
But I don't see why we're laughing at Cesar Rene Cuenca. I mean, stopped. No, he didn't stop him, but he did drop a king in the first round. Just think about that. We thought Ik Yang on this podcast. We were saying. Now I changed my mind. I wanted to say that out there. I changed my mind. I got some sense, but you guys didn't. You guys are like, nope. Cuenca's gonna get murdered. Ik Yang is literally gonna eat him, like in the movie Dumplings. He's gonna eat him in a dumpling for youth, to preserve youth.
Preserve youth.
Yeah. Shout out Fruit Chan. And no, it didn't happen. Cuenca outboxed Yang. I mean, Cuenca looked like Floyd Mayweather. And Troyanovsky is pretty basic. He's like, what can you say? He's like a guy who throws a lot of punches. Not a lot like, he's not Antonio Margarito throwing a lot of punches. He's like always just prodding and trying to keep his opponents in their guard. That's the best way to describe it. He likes to throw big power punches. It's not going to work against Cuenca if that's your only plan, because Cuenca is a little too smart for that. Ik Yang learned that just throwing power shots and slugging doesn't work with Cuenca.
Do you think Mayweather needs to come out of retirement?
If Cuenca can break
beats his record?
Yeah,
right.
I do. And I think, that, and they have to fight. They have to throw out the 12-round thing and just say somebody's getting knocked out here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, they need to have they need to find a country that will sanction a ridiculous bout without any kind of real rules.
I mean, it's
Floyd
Mayweather. They can do it in Las Vegas.
They can do it in Las Vegas. Ooh.
I just made some Pacquiao fans happy.
Yeah, you did.
I try.
You gotta throw him a bone every once in a while.
Yep.
He's not doing him any help.
Now, guess the odds. Like, what's the line here?
For Cuenca?
For this fight.
For by decision?
No, just who's winning? Who's the favorite?
Just who's the favorite? I would imagine it might be tighter than people are thinking. Maybe like 3-1 Cuenca? Or is it?
No.
Or is it the exact opposite?
It's the exact opposite. So Troyanovsky's a very, 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 very slim underdog. I mean, minus 110 slim.
Yeah, so it's a close fight.
Yeah, but
that's what I was trying to say.
And Troyanovsky's the favorite. So
Troyanovsky's the favorite?
Yeah.
Because of that knockout. People see 19 knockouts versus 2. And they lose their shit. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on here. So I think we should bet Cuenca.
That's what I'm thinking. Man.
All right. Also on the undercard, the headliners, Povetkin versus sorry. I always assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about just because I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about boxing. But Alexander Povetkin is going to fight Marius Walk. 6'7.5" heavyweight in Walk versus 6'2" heavyweight in Alexander Povetkin. And you know what? Povetkin is a huge favorite to win this fight. And, this is one of those lines where it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, Walk hasn't fought anybody. His best fight was losing to Vladimir Klitschko, and there's nothing close on his record after that. Povetkin's a real heavyweight. This is the best heavyweight in the world, not named Klitschko. And this dude has been knocking people's blocks off in recent memory.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Char, Takam, Perez. Like, just going at it, taking on the big names in the heavyweight division.
Those are all top 10 heavyweights, by the way.
At the time, yeah.
Well, I mean, no, they're not anywhere
near. Now
Char's
in the hospital nursing a gun wound from a deranged fan.
Yep.
Mike Perez,
who probably bet on him.
Soul is gone.
And Takam hasn't woken up yet.
Right. So we got Walk.
Walk's next on the list. I do think I'm not betting stoppage on this one. I have this as a decision.
You don't think he gets walked and goes down?
No, not here.
All
right. So the undercard, Vasily Lomachenko. Oh wait, let me just throw this out there. I told you guys about this last week, and I said this in the other podcast that I've recorded, but I'm gonna remind you guys again. Dmitry Kudryashov. Go look at the highlight reel. He's gonna fight on this undercard. Look at the highlight reel. This guy can punch. The biggest puncher I've seen so far currently in boxing right now. Nobody's close. This guy is he's scary. This guy is on the undercard. Do not miss his fight. That's it. All right. So
how are we watching this?
Well,
okay.
We are gonna watch it on Box Nation.
Okay.
Which
Box Nation is picking it up. All right.
Which you can stream.
Yep.
Let's see. Who else do we got? Oh, yeah. Vasily Lomachenko versus Romulo Koashia. I don't know how to say his name, so we're going to call him Romulo. Or is it Romula? Whatever. It's irrelevant because, like, what are the odds that Lomachenko loses here?
Yeah, very unlikely.
If we consult the betting lines, it's minus 4,100 for Lomachenko.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems about right, though. Lomachenko, I worry about his hands. He can win a fight. He could win a fight with one hand. It's not a problem, but I just imagine the destructive force he could be if he could fight with both hands, and fight full fights with both hands. So
yeah, you know what? I agree with that.
It's because he's old and he spent a lot of time in the amateurs. Maybe, I'm not going to say too much because he had a lot of accolades and that's fantastic. But he's got hand problems in the pros, and it's either going to mean that he has to pull his punches so he doesn't hurt his hands. Therefore, he's going to get a lot of decision wins versus knockout wins. When I don't know, it's tough. It's tough.
It's interesting that you say that. because Felix Verdejo is having some problems too, and he just had another fight canceled because of his hand problems. And I'm thinking now that you say that is these guys who spend a lot of time in the amateurs, it's a different way of punching because it's about scoring. It's not about hurting the other guy. And maybe these guys are spending so many times in the fundamentals that they have of punching in the amateurs. As a pro, there's a little different way of punching if you want to hurt somebody. And maybe they're not changing how they're punching and still throwing the same way. And they're injuring their hands just because they're throwing so hard and it's landing at a different angle for the wrist and in the hand and causing trouble for them.
That they could just be overcompensating for knowing that they used to not have to hit hard, right?
Right.
And now they know they do have to hit hard. So it could just be they're overcompensating and hurting their hands,
Right. And then, there's also the pool for them to be exciting. And what is exciting? Well, it's scoring knockouts and hurting dudes.
Exactly.
And so there's the expectation that they do that.
Exactly. So I think...
Paulie Malignaggi, I think, was the same way because he had hand injuries. And he was...
very early on in his career, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's made a fine career for himself. So it's not like, fighters can't go on to do it. It's just, it's too bad because I see a fantastic fighter in Lomachenko who, with two healthy hands, could do a lot of damage to a lot of different fighters. You know what I mean? He's just very versatile, very good-looking fighter, but just worries me about his hands constantly. So, anyways, we can move on.
Yeah, Lomachenko's a terrific talent. And let me ask you a question about him, though. Do you know how tall he is?
Lomachenko?
Yeah, he's 5'6".
Wow.
So, do you think that he can move up in weight and fight Manny Pacquiao? What's funny is when Lomachenko first turned pro, there was this big mystery over his reach because people have
that's right
claimed a legendary reach, and it turns out that his reach is only 65 inches.
Oh well.
I have a longer reach. I'm also taller than him, but so what? Let's see the final fight to talk about, which I'm sure you've been itching to talk about, seeing as how you're such a big fan of Brandon Rios, is Timothy Bradley versus Brandon Rios for Floyd Mayweather's WBO welterweight title. That the WBO just conveniently stripped and handed right over to a top-ranked fighter.
The top rank. That is so... Wow. How convenient for HBO to be able to put on a championship boxing match.
I mean, obviously, their whole series is called World Championship Boxing, so...
Gotta have an organization tied to that.
Right. First of all, let's just get your quick prediction. Who's winning this fight and how?
I got Bradley by unanimous decision.
When you paused, I was like, he's going to say stop it. What is his problem?
Well, my problem would be Teddy Atlas, which is going to be Brandon Rios' problem come November, whatever, 7th. No, I don't think Bradley's going to totally change his career over. But listening to that Max Marcellus, interview where Max kind of gave his take on the whole Bradley switching to Atlas, he made a lot of good points. I don't always agree with Max what he says, but he did make a lot of really good points.
I'm kidding.
He made a lot of good points in that. Atlas doesn't really take fighters on. Bradley doesn't need to change too much. He's got solid fundamentals. I think that we're going to see Bradley beat Rios. Rios has only looked good because he's fought Mike Alvarado. And it's nothing against Rios. I just think Bradley's on just the next level. I'm not saying Bradley's 10 levels above him, just the next level. And I think if Bradley fights a smart fight, that should be very apparent.
Okay, let me ask you this right here.
Go ahead.
So, why do you think Bradley's winning this fight? What is it about Bradley?
He's not a stationary target. He's gonna move, and he's gonna be able to trouble Rios by flashing a jab in his face, throwing off Rios's timing, and just not being there to be hit.
What Teddy Atlas
Bradley
brings
does stand
concerns
still.
me. There's one concern I have, is that Teddy Atlas brings an intensity that
Right.
Joel Diaz also brought, and I think that, like, I hesitate to say this, but I don't think Virgil Hunter is a trainer for everybody. I just don't, because I think that what he wants to do with fighters is not always effective. I think one of the things that Bradley needs is somebody who grounds him in the corner.
Not somebody who amps him up and says, go eat 15 more punches to the head.
Exactly. And Joel Diaz did that. And look, Bradley's good at this. I'm not saying that Bradley needs to change anything with this, but I do think that the trainers and what they bring in the corner, just the tone that they set, has gotten Bradley to lose his cool and get into slugfest that he's not needed to get into.
See, now I think, here's my opinion on it. Now, from the outside, I think that is such an obvious statement. Atlas will know that, and that's what they will work on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the most obvious thing is that Bradley takes unnecessary punishment. Like, we all are on the same page.
Right.
So if you're in a game, if you're in a training camp with Bradley, what are you training for? To not take unnecessary punishment.
To go against
now,
his
I understand
nature.
that. Now, to go against his nature, right? Now, I understand that you're saying, Atlas brings that high intensity, and I feel you there. But I think that it's going to be more about bringing back Bradley to, like, let me see Bradley out of the Marquez fight. Give me that Bradley.
That Bradley was not that effective.
That Bradley.
They need the Bradley
Marquez.
who beat Devin Alexander.
Sure, but
the guy who,
Devin. I'm looking at a fighter who's a little more complete. Devin Alexander.
I mean, that was a close fight with the Marquez one. I'd like to see the
It was
Bradley
close, but it was
who
a fight
shut guys
he didn't
out.
get lured into. But he didn't get lured into anything. He didn't. You know what I mean? He didn't go flailing. Crazy, getting hit, war style. I thought he kept it calm. He kept it cool and collected, and he just outboxed him. And I thought it was convincing.
Yeah. Now, see, the thing is, if there's any fighter out there that's going to be able to bring the Bradley out
of Bradley,
it's Brandon Rios.
Then Rios, right?
Like, he's going to talk trash. He's going to piss Bradley off. He's going to do things in the ring. There's a high likelihood here that, and it's not a huge chance, but compared to like someone like Jesse Vargas, there's a high chance here that Bradley does not look that good here against Rios. And I know Rios is limited and stuff, but I think Rios could draw Bradley into something that Bradley does not want to get drawn into. Just the same way Provodnikov did. Not saying that Bradley loses. I think even if Rios does this, Bradley still beats him.
I don't think he's going to get drawn in. That's my prediction.
Okay. That's a bold better prediction, though.
Yeah, but it's
who
bold,
cares
though.
who wins this fight? It's likely Bradley.
It's likely Bradley, but I don't think he's going to get drawn in. I really don't. I think part of him changing trainers was I need to not get drawn in. I don't care who he chose. He obviously identified in himself that he needs something new, and that something new is to not get drawn in, right? So he knows inside himself, right?
And that's the better prediction, I think, because that's the real question here. Is Bradley going to fight a disciplined fight?
And that's what makes it an interesting fight to watch, because like you said, if anybody's going to bring it out in him, Rios has the guts and the determination and the ability to absorb punishment to bring it out in him.
If you're right, though, this is going to be a boring fight.
It absolutely could be. Yep.
And it needs to be. I think if Bradley
gets a definitive solid win, it needs to be real boring.
And remember this, Bradley used to be one of the most unwatchable fighters in the sport.
He was the butt of all jokes. Like, he was a joke. People, all they knew him for, seriously, they just, it was headbutts and boring fights.
Yep.
That was his motto.
Yep.
Right?
And so let's jump on to, so we're done with all the previews. Let's jump on to the Reddit pound for pound list.
All right.
Let's just discuss
Let's
this for a little
take this
bit.
thing on.
All right, so here's the top 10 according to Reddit Boxing. Number 1, Floyd Mayweather. Kidding. Number 1, Vladimir Klitschko. Number 2, Roman Gonzalez. Number 3, Gennady Golovkin. Number 4, Andre Ward. 5, Guillermo Rigondeaux. 6, Sergey Kovalev. 7, Manny Pacquiao. 8, Terrence Crawford, who will beat Manny Pacquiao. 9, Canelo Alvarez. 10, Danny Garcia. 11, Frank Buglioni.
It's legit.
It's legit indeed.
So here's the thing.
Buglioni should be 1.
If we're going to make any type of adjustments, it's with Buglioni. He has infinite points. True. So that's pretty hard to beat. I want to just let's be real about it for a minute. People, for better or worse, actually care about pound for pound. It's a big topic of discussion. It's something that's fun to think about. But whenever it gets more than that, I think people need to kind of just cool off. It's just a fun thought experiment is the way that I try to think about it. Now, just if I were to, nitpick out the list, I say immediately 2 things jump off the page as wrong. Pacquiao's on the list still? Ooh. I don't know.
Ooh. Why are you going for the jugular first? You got to warm him up.
Well, I don't know. No, I'm just saying Pacquiao, in my opinion, from a pound-for-pound perspective, is extremely hard to rate right now.
Just extremely. What has he done in the past 18 months?
I need to see him in a different type of fight. You know what I mean? I need to see him in a different type of fight. And it's just very hard.
In the past 18 months, to rate him. He's beaten Chris Algieri and lost to Floyd Mayweather.
Right. You almost tripped up there.
Obviously.
So, and then the other problem that I have, which is actually a bigger problem, because I could put some more oomph into my argument, whereas with Pacquiao, it's just like, how do you rate him? Why is he, how do you even rate him? Therefore, why is he so high? That's my kind of argument with Pacquiao. My next problem with the list is Crawford being so low. I think that's crazy. Crawford's got legit wins, legit talent, has shown nothing, but, well, in the end, he's dominant.
97% dominance in this fight.
Yeah. He doesn't
He had always a little slip up with Gamboa, but Gamboa is good.
Right. So you could give him, oh my gosh, he lost a couple rounds. That's okay. They all do.
Pacquiao's lost more.
Significantly more. So, I don't know. I don't like seeing Crawford so low. I think Crawford's got a better claim to be up a little bit higher. Golovkin at... What do you think about Roman Gonzalez in Golovkin at 2 and 3? How does that make you feel? Above Andre Ward.
Well...
So now are you looking at recently? Because when you talked about Manny Pacquiao, you only took into consideration the last 18 months. So if you're doing that for Pacquiao, are you doing that for Ward too?
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I don't vote for the list. I calculated the list, and I don't agree with pound-for-pound list. I think the parameters are unclear, and to start, they're flawed. This is why on my website I have my own list, which it doesn't really look like this list because I don't consider the same things that pound-for-pound lists consider. I don't care what network you're on. I don't care what division you fight in, and I certainly don't care what you did more than 2 years ago because guess what? It's irrelevant.
So you're saying because what pound for pound ends up being is a popularity contest.
Exactly. Oh, let me finish. I'm the one who calculated this list. Okay, I did all the work putting these numbers in, and let me just.
Danny Garcia got to number 10.
That's why Frank Buglioni's on the list. No, here's what happened with this. I thought it was really interesting too. Is that Golovkin got a lot of votes. Okay, but the reason why Gonzalez is above him is because of the narrative that HBO pushed that Gonzalez is number 1. You wouldn't believe how many people put Gonzalez as number 1. Now, Klitschko was the obvious, clear runaway number 1. Most of the number 1 votes were to Klitschko, but Gonzalez got quite a few, much more than Golovkin. And so that's why he's number 1. I think overall, though, Golovkin got He was around number 2 or 3 most of the time. So the way that the lists are calculated, even in the voting and adding up, I think that's flawed as well. I don't mind, though. I think Golovkin and Gonzalez right now, they're at least somewhere in the top 5.
Yeah.
I can see anywhere from, I don't think number 1, though. I think 1 is Vladimir Klitschko, and if you think Roman Gonzalez is number 1 pound for pound, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're buying into what HBO's feeding you, and you need to stop that. Because they're going to say Klitschko's number 1 when he fights Fury. I mark my words.
As long as it's on their network.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little disappointed with the list, too, that a lot of people, if they were going to add in somebody else who was, you know who the obvious ones, like I can give you 10 seconds and you'll get the top 15 most obvious choices for pound voting. But anybody who did include somebody like a Donny Nietes or Naoya Inoue,
okay,
they would only throw them at number 10. It's like, hey, you don't get many points for being number 10, right?
Right.
So
throw those
got
guys
a lot
at
of
number
votes.
1. Yeah.
But they've actually only gotten like 30 points total. So good for you guys.
Right.
The one thing that I do have a problem with on the list is that I don't know why Guillermo Rigondeaux is so high. I like Guillermo Rigondeaux. He's one of my favorites. And I give him, like, if you listen to the other preview podcast, I destroy Rigondeaux. And I did a little earlier. But at the same time, I don't think that he should be as high because he did get dropped twice against Amagasa and has only fought once, I think, in the past 18 months.
Right.
So, and the same thing with Andre Ward. Like, by my list, Andre Ward is 20-something. Simply because he hasn't fought more than once in the past 2 years. Guillermo Rigondeaux has. I said 18 for a very specific reason.
Right.
But Ward has only fought once in the past 2 years. So that really counts against him. But look, both guys were Ward was much more dominant in his fight against Paul Smith than Rigondeaux was against the Vampire. And I hesitate to say anything about Manny Pacquiao because I just don't want to deal with his fans. So Manny Pacquiao's number 7, whatever. You can have the problem with it.
I'll take the problem. I mean, at least they dropped him. At least he's not 2.
He got some number 1 votes.
Oh, no, he did.
I swear.
Of course.
He got some number 1 votes, and I was
just no. My problem with Pacquiao is that he's hard to place. He's hard to place. Like, and I, you want to put him at 7, fine. I could step back on that. 7 is okay. I don't think he should be above Crawford. That's really my problem. Switch those two. He's very tricky to place at this point.
I don't think you should be on a pound for pound list if you've lost in your last fight.
Well, that's an interesting take.
Like, I don't think that. I mean,
it's an interesting take. People then, it's lost to who, right?
And I'll say that the one exception is Floyd Mayweather, which means Manny Pacquiao can get on the list.
Could get on the list, exactly.
But if Kovalev and Stevenson fight each other, and some people had both of them on their lists, the loser, you got to go.
The loser's got to go. Yeah.
We can't have so many people on the pound for pound list in the same division as well. There's no way you're telling me that the third best middleweight or welterweight in the world is better than the number 1 flyweight in the world or the number 1 bantamweight in the world. You just can't make that argument to me. It's crazy. I just want to give a special shout out to Badu Jack because I know you submitted a pound for pound list. I know you did. Okay. Why in the world did anybody put Badu Jack on their pound for pound list? The only logical explanation was that it was Badu Jack.
Yeah. So Badu Jack, PM me. We'll set up an AMA.
Yep.
Let's get it done.
It was hilarious. And shout out to the people who put Jorge Linares on their lists. Carl Frampton got some votes.
Good. I'm happy about that.
Shinsuke Yamanaka got some votes. And look, Shinsuke Yamanaka had a very close last fight against a very good fighter. But I don't think Yamanaka deserved a vote in the top 10. But when you bring up the points that you do bring up, maybe he did. I don't know.
Right.
Because according to you, there are some people in the list that do not belong there.
Yeah. I mean, part of, so part of what makes pound for pound a popularity contest is just take a look at Canelo Alvarez for a second. And if you're a diehard Canelo fan, take this with a grain of salt, or just like open your ears to maybe a different point of view for a second, whichever route you want to go. You've got Canelo, who is a good fighter, right? He's got one loss to the best fighter in the world. All right. So those are kind of his talking points. But like, I want to know the name of the person that Canelo has definitively, comprehensively beat. That's a decent fighter enough to claim that he's one of the 10 best boxers in the world. What's the win? Just give me the name. Give me one name. So who is it?
Matthew Hatton.
Stop it.
Alfonso Gomez? Oh, you mean James Kirkland and Alfredo Angulo.
There we go. Right. Obviously, those guys were completely shot at the time of the fight. They were the perfect stylistic matchup for him, meaning they stood still and let him get off shots. Lara is his best win. It was a win in which, if you're a fan of Lara, you probably felt Lara won the fight. There was actually a judge who thought Lara won the fight. It was a split decision win.
That judge has never judged a Golden Boy event since then.
Interesting.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No. I just made that up.
So I don't know, how do we call him one of the 10 best fighters in the world when his best wins are narrow victories, and not victories in which he looked dominant by any stretch. Victories in which he has slipped by on handsomeness and body shots. Like, I don't think he hit. Did he punch Lara in the face once? He's like the only fighter to ever.
Maybe.
He's like the only fighter to ever win a fight off body shots alone.
Well, I mean, Lara wasn't even in the pocket to fight. I just looked at the judge. It's Craig Metcalf. Or sorry, not Craig. Jerry Roth. He's not judged a Golden Boy card since then.
Oh, there you go. So you weren't wrong. But so I just hope, if you're a fan of Canelo, that's cool. Don't, this isn't really me hating on him, because I really like watching him fight. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's an exciting fighter. My wife loves him. He could definitely be the future of boxing, yada, yada, for sure. I don't know what has he done to warrant being a pound for pound fighter. That's all. What has he done to warrant such an accolade?
Let me just correct that. He's judged one Golden Boy event, and that was on the Mayweather Maidana card. I think it was the rematch, I believe. Because it has Vasquez Bay on the undercard. But he did judge some Golden Boy fights, Golden Boy fight on that card. And that's all. That's it we've got. If you disagree with Jason or you disagree with me or anything like that, guess what? Not only do we have email and Twitter and Reddit to interact with us, there's also a Skype account that you can message. Sunday Puncher Podcast. You just type that in. Skype should find it. There's no spaces there. Sunday Puncher Podcast. Subscribe to us, rate us, share the podcast, and that's what we've got for this week. We'll be back next week with hopefully Simon will be back, and that's it. Thanks for listening.